إن في خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف الليل والنهار لآيات لأولي الألباب.
May the peace and blessings of Allah the Almighty be upon us. I welcome you to Islam and Science here in the studios of Wahab Adam of MTA International Africa. Usually on this show, we get to do discussions to come onto a common platform of understanding regarding the relationship between Islam and science. Many people are of the view that Islam is opposed to science. Thus, mostly experts say it is not true. So this is the platform that gives us the chance to get to find out whether really certain issues that we take to make judgments on, such that we are able to say whether Islam or science are converging or they are at variance. So today on the show, we are looking at Pardah in Islam. This, some people call it covering. Others say it's a curtain, and yet still others see it as a veil. When we say Pardah in Islam, this is what it stands for. With me to do the discussion are to my immediate left, Dr. Osman Kobna Ejepon. He is a pediatrician at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. And next to him, sitting to my extreme left, is Hafiz Molvi Ismail Ahmed Edusai. He is a missionary of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Mission and currently at the MTA in charge of translation of Huzur sermons to the Akan language. Gentlemen, welcome to Islam and Science.
Thank you very much.
Yes, Hafiz, without wasting much time, I would want to know, when we say Pardah, I've earlier mentioned, they say it's a covering. Is it just about that? What is it when Islam is concerned?
Yes, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. When you talk of Pardah as a word, literally it means covering or a curtain, as you earlier on mentioned.
Okay.
But in this case, you are looking at it as a terminology.
Okay.
And as a terminology, we are looking at the whole system in Islam that Allah Himself has instituted that talks about how a woman should dress, how a man should dress. Even it goes a long way to talk about not only covering yourself well, but even restraining your eyes.
Okay.
And it's a whole package. It's not only about the veil that's put on your head. For instance, if somebody puts a veil on her head, and she exposes all the other parts of her body, that wouldn't be proper Pardah. So it's a whole package that talks about how a woman should dress, how she should dress when she's outside or when she goes into gatherings where other people might see her, and how men should also put on their dresses.
Okay, so briefly, you mentioned that Islam has a prescription somehow for how women should dress. And what could be the possible intent of this position in Islam?
Well, first and foremost, what I would want to say is that whenever God the Almighty brings an injunction that we should do, the very first reason why you should do it, you should act upon the injunction, is that God has said it.
Okay.
Not going into the nitty-gritties of it, why He said it and all.
Okay.
Just because God has said it is enough a reason for everyone to follow. Now, talking about the other benefits that come with observing Pardah,
okay.
God the Almighty Himself has mentioned it in the Holy Quran, talking about Pardah, that it's a way, He says, ذَلِكَ أَزْكَى لَهُمْ. It is more purified for them.
Okay.
So this is a way through which one can attain purity. Purity of thoughts,
okay.
Purity of mind, purity of the heart. Because what you see goes a long way to affect your thinking.
Okay.
So right from what you see, God is trying to put a restraint on what Muslim men and women should see.
Okay.
And that would also affect or would also restrict their thinking mentalities. And this is a way that will keep them in a check in terms of chastity and in terms of fidelity.
Okay.
So that when a Muslim lady observes Pardah, it presupposes that she shouldn't also expose herself to anyone she's not supposed to expose herself to.
Okay.
For instance, if a Muslim lady is observing Pardah, it behoves not on her that she should then go and expose herself to somebody other than her husband, or somebody who is not in her household.
Okay.
So that doesn't also mean that if you are not observing Pardah, you are at liberty to do that.
No.
But the Pardah in itself tells you that you should keep your private parts, you should keep your privacy to yourselves, except to some specific people that Allah, the Almighty Himself, has given us permission.
Okay.
So in a nutshell, what I would say is that Pardah is a system that God has put in place to check that human beings do not fall out of chastity.
Okay. All right. So, Doctor, let's look at it from this angle. Hafiz Saib is saying that even when you expose yourself to someone that is not your husband, it means you are not observing Pardah. But basically, where I would want you to come in is that, does Pardah serve any other purpose apart from the fact that, just as Hafiz mentioned, it helps Muslim women to remain chaste?
Yes. Pardah, that is covering the whole body in the proper way, serves a lot of purpose, apart from the moral side that Hafiz Saib has touched on.
Okay.
Scientifically, we know that our bodies, we are exposed to the sun, and the sun that is there for a purpose, but also it contains some radiations, one of them being ultraviolet radiations, which it's well known in science that if it's exposed to the body for a long time, it can cause some damage to the skin.
To the skin, right.
What forms the pigment of our body is what we call melanin.
Okay.
And there are cells under our skin we call melanocytes that produce those pigments.
Okay.
And these melanocytes, when they are exposed to these ultraviolet radiations for a long time, they tend to change, and that can lead to skin cancer. So one of the common skin cancers in the world is, we call it melanoma. And studies have proven that melanoma develops when the skin gets direct contact with the sun for a long time. So this is where having proper Pardah, covering yourself well, becomes very useful, because you protect yourself from this ultraviolet light. In America, it's known that where they keep statistics of this kind of cancers, about 3 million people are diagnosed with this kind of skin cancers every day. Some of them may be not too serious, or what we call benign cancers. Some of them will be the dangerous one, where we call the malignant cancers. But again, studies have shown that if you protect yourself from the sun, direct sun, by covering yourself properly, you have a higher chance of reducing the development of these skin cancers. So science is really in line with this, that Allah knows us, He created, He knows what is good for us. That is why He gave that injunction that we should observe Pardah. So it goes even not only for women, it comes only for men too, that we should clothe ourselves properly and not expose our body all the time to the direct sunlight which can eventually cause some of the skin cancers.
Okay. Hafiz Saib, when we say covering, Pardah, what is the measure? Is it that you conceal the whole body with the exception of the eyes? Or you do all with the exception of the face, the hands and the feet or something? What is the measure which is required in Islam?
Well, in Islam, there are stages or levels of Pardah, and there's no one specific way of doing Pardah. For instance, if somebody, the basic thing that should be known here is that you don't expose parts of your body that would eventually expose your beauty. Okay. So you talk of your hair, you talk of your facial beauty, you talk of your hands, and even your legs, and all the other parts that are usually covered by people, because that also fall in the category of parts of the body that can show your beauty. So the basic thing that the scholars say is that there are 4 things that you should put in check. That is that you shouldn't wear a certain cloth that is too transparent. So that you are wearing a cloth but you still see through it. The other thing is that you shouldn't wear too short a cloth. So that you will expose some parts of your body. The other thing is that the cloth itself shouldn't be too subtle, such that it would kind of get attached to the body in a way that all your contours would also show. Yes, and the 4th thing is that generally the cloth shouldn't be such that it should attract the eyes of people. The cloth itself. It shouldn't be such that anybody going, the attention of the person would be attracted to you. So putting all these principles in place, somebody may cover the hair to this place and that place. Somebody may come up here. The better you do it, the more you cover yourself, the better. And there's no one specific way of doing that. So depending on one's faith, how the person understands the system of Pardah, and the love, this is very important, the love that the person has for what she's doing or what he's doing, the person would do it.
So, doctor, to protect one's body away from the harsh weather conditions, what will be your measurement of observance of Pardah? Do we cover the whole body because of the sun, or we could get ourselves dressed in some short clothing and then go with an umbrella?
To answer your question, if from what I said earlier, covering the whole body is more protective because you want to protect yourself from the ultraviolet light, which I've said rays, which I've said that it affects the cells under the skin. So, and in tying it with what Mavi Saib said earlier, if you wear loose clothes, you'll feel comfortable. So even in our part of the world where people complain that the sun is very hot, so they don't want to cover the whole body, if you wear loose clothes instead of tight clothes, you'll feel comfortable. So there won't be the need for you to expose part of the body because you want to feel comfortable. Because just imagine somebody wearing tight clothes, tight jeans and tight top, and another lady wearing covering the whole body but with loose clothes. That person will feel, the person wearing the loose clothes will feel more comfortable in the heat than the person wearing the tight clothes. So it will not be an excuse to say that I cannot cover the whole body because the sun is too hot. You can cover the whole body using wearing very loose clothes.
So doctor, you mentioned earlier that one of the reasons why Islam advises the observance of Pardah is for women to remain chaste. You said not just only the women, also for men to be able to control themselves. So now I want to know, what control does the woman's body have on the mind of men?
Okay. I believe it's for me, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Well, God naturally created women to be attractive.
Okay.
And
okay.
This is something that is not rocket science. Everybody can testify to that.
It really is not. We can we can see. Yes.
Yes. So this is a natural instinct, and even science is the study of nature.
Okay.
So we can say that scientifically, it is natural for men to get attracted to women as well. In that regard, if women are allowed to expose themselves, the more attractive parts of themselves, it means many more men would be attracted to them.
Will lust for them.
Yes, and the more the men are attracted to them lustfully, the more immorality would prevail in society, because people would want to have their own ways and means of getting those women. And their thoughts would also be in tune with those kind of exposures, that they are always thinking about those things. So the whole Pardah thing, as we were discussing, would not be of benefit to only the Muslim woman, but it is also of very paramount benefit to the Muslim men and the whole world at large, because if every woman was to observe Pardah, it means there would be lesser cases of immoralities and rape cases and people lustfully being drawn to women. So this would put the men in check, as I said earlier on, such that the Promised Messiah Islam gave an example here, and I would want to quote it in Philosophy of the Teachings of Islam. He says that you cannot put soft bread before a hungry dog. And then you expect it not to pay attention to it. You expect the dog not to pay attention.
Is it just about attention? It would want to go after it.
Well, that's what the Promised Messiah said, and I think it explains itself. It's self-explanatory, that the dog would definitely pay attention to that soft bread. You get the point?
Yes.
So if the thing has been covered well, it saves us a lot of misconduct. Another example that one may, even in our general world now, if you have something precious, you always want to keep it safe.
Yes.
For instance, if you go to an office and somebody has placed a diamond on the table, uncovered, this diamond is something that would attract the attention of people, and people would want to have it. You cannot place a diamond or a gold on the table and expect people to walk around as if nothing has happened.
No.
And beyond just their attention, it might even attract people to go to immoral ways of stealing. Trying to steal it or rob it for that matter. So in order to save oneself from all these, it is a prescription that even your diamond, this is logical. Your diamond, you should keep it safe, covered, and put it somewhere. So women in Islam are like diamonds. They are like pearls. It is in no way a derogatory system for them, no. And Muslim women do understand this. So people who think that this is something that has been imposed on the Muslim woman, no, they don't complain. So this is a way of showing them respect, that God has put in you at a status that you have a lot of attractive powers in you. And for that matter, you should cover it and not put people in temptation.
And such that before someone gets in touch with that beauty, the person must have shown some kind of responsibility.
The person should pass through the normal and the well-stipulated religious ways of marriage.
So that makes men responsible.
That makes men responsible and women responsible as well. It's both-sided. Yes.
To add to what Mavis said, I remember very well in medical school, in one of the subjects that they were showing us the brain of men and women. And this was a social science study that has been done to see what predominates the man's mind.
Okay.
And guess what? The most part of the brain of men were dominated by issues about women.
Okay.
And part of it, the other dominant thing was sports. So social science have proven it, that naturally men's mind are inclined in about women.
Okay.
So if there is no such injunction about pardah and proper dressing and not exposing your beauty of women,
okay,
this will make things worse. Then all that the men will be thinking around all the time is about the beauty of women and all those things. So it really falls in line.
Really,
so productivity will go down.
Yes. Just an interjection with what Dr. Saab has said. It reminded me that, yes, psychology has also proved that men are attracted more by what they see. So if you are attracted more by what you see, and then you see the wrong things, definitely the outcome to every action, there's a reaction.
There's a reaction.
The outcome, the reaction to it will also be wrong.
Okay.
So restrict the action and the reaction will be right.
Okay. I think we are running out of time. But briefly, Doctor, what would be your last advice? But just before I come to that, let me go to Hafiz first. You mentioned earlier that the purpose of observing Pardah is for us to keep our bodies safe from the burns of the sun. That's one of the reasons. So because of that, one could say it is not strictly meant for Muslim women. It would be better for whether women, men of whatever religious background to observe that. So now, Hafiz, I want to know, is this particular advice on observing Pardah, is it strictly for Muslim women, or both men, women, and the entirety of humanity?
Yes, if I revisit what I said earlier, it is very clear that whilst God admonished Muslim women to, in fact, even before admonishing the Muslim women to restrain their gains, as I said, Pardah is a whole system, and even restricting your gazes is also part of it. So before God even told the Muslim women to restrain their gazes, He told the Muslim men that they should also restrain their gazes, and then said that the Muslim women should also restrain their gazes. Yes, so the thing is for both men and women. And something that is societal, this issue is a societal issue in the sense that if without Pardah, immorality would escalate. If without Pardah, promiscuity will escalate. Then it shouldn't be limited to only Muslim women or Muslim men. It should be to the entirety of the world. And yes, the previous religious scriptures have also made mention of this. And not to even go into the books, when we look at the movies even movies that talk about Jesus and other prophets before, we see that the Jewish women portrayed in those women, they are always in veils and well covered and all. So that was what was regarded as civilization. Gradually, the definition of civilization has turned into something else. That you rather expose yourself, whereas exposing oneself was regarded uncivilized earlier on, such that people in the Stone Age were regarded uncivilized because they weren't covered. And now that we have gained civilization, we seem to be going back to those those times, as this is of exposure. Of exposure. One other thing, the last thing that I would want to say with regards to Pardah in the words of Allah the Almighty is that ذَلِكَ أَدْنَى أَنْ يُعْرَفْنَا فَلَا يُؤْذَيْنَ. God the Almighty says that observing Pardah is the closest way for you to be recognized. And as a result, you wouldn't be taunted. It's a recognition. And the result of that recognition is that you wouldn't be taunted. That is to say that when you see a Muslim woman fully dressed in Pardah, or whoever, whether she's a Muslim or a non-Muslim, but well covered in Pardah, you realize that this person is just by the looks. You know that this person has some principles that she follows, and as such, she wouldn't be readily available for immorality. I don't know to put it in better
words. The person commands certain level of respect.
Exactly.
From the look of Doctor, your last word. Now you can come in.
Sure. So my last word is that we shouldn't use where we are in the heat or anything as an excuse to not to dress properly and cover ourselves properly.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming on the show, Islam and Science. Viewer, we have been looking at the essence of Pardah in Islam, and my guests have advised that it is necessary for us to keep to its observance because it will help us from the harsh nature of the weather and also assist us to remain chaste. Until same day, same time next week, continue to enjoy our programs. My name is Hafiz Din Akram, and the show remains Islam and Science. May the peace and blessings of Allah the Almighty be upon us.